Welcome back, listener. Come in out of the snow and let the day go. Tonight we are spending one long winter night inside a great stone castle. 700 years ago, the gates are about to close. The fires are lit down the middle of the great hall, and every soul in this place, from the lord in his tower to the boy who turns the kitchen spit, is about to do the oldest thing a castle was built for: sleep safely in the cold, behind good walls. Before we cross the drawbridge, settle yourself properly. Put the day down, all of it, wherever you are. It will keep till morning. Let your shoulders drop. Let the bed take your whole weight, and let your breathing slow to the pace of falling snow. Nothing is required of you tonight. This story asks for no attention it does not earn, and it is built to be lost. Drift when you drift. The castle has stood for generations without your help. It will stand through tonight. If these quiet nights help you sleep, there is one small kindness you can do us. Subscribe so the next world can find you, and leave a word below telling us where in the world you are listening from. We read everyone in the mornings, and the thought of all those quiet rooms going dark, scattered across every country and every time zone, is the best fire we know. Wherever you are tonight, you are welcome here. This hour is yours. And now the one rule of the house, the same as every night. You have my full permission to fall asleep at any moment. There is no ending you must stay awake for. Nothing in this story will startle you or call you back. Castles were built so that everyone inside could stop watching the dark. Tonight that includes you. Let the walls do the work. They are very good at it. Here is the road we will walk, though you need not remember it. We come up the winter road as the light fails, and through the gate just before it closes. We warm ourselves in the great hall and visit the kitchens, the cellars, the stables, and the small quiet chapel. We climb to the Lord's chambers and see how a household beds down. From the great curtained bed to the pallets by the fire, we walk the walls with the night watch, look out from the tower over the sleeping valley, and call on the village below. And we end, as we always end in the smallest hours, with every fire banked and every soul asleep, and the snow falling soft on the battlements. So, the sun is nearly down behind the western ridge, and the cold is sharpening. The road climbs ahead of us, white and quiet, toward a shape of towers on the rock. Lights are coming up in the narrow windows, one by one, small and warm and high. Listen, somewhere up there, a horn is sounding the last hour before the gates. It is not a warning. It is an invitation. Come up out of the dark, it says. The walls are thick, and the fire is kept. The road to a castle always saves the castle for last. It winds up through the valley with its mind apparently on other things: the frozen stream, the mill, the bare black orchards, and then it turns a shoulder of the hill, and there the whole thing stands. Gray stone on gray rock, towers against the first stars, walls following the cliff edge the way a wall follows a ruler. In summer, travelers say it looks stern. In winter, with snow on every ledge and firelight in the high windows, it looks like something else entirely. It looks like the warmest place in the world, deliberately built very hard to reach. Snow has been falling since midday, in no hurry, and the valley has gone soft under it. The last carts of the day are ahead of us on the road, wheels creaking in the cold, loaded with firewood and sacks of milled flour from the village below. The carters walk beside their oxen, breath steaming, hoods up. Nobody hurries and nobody dawdles. Winter roads teach a pace, and everyone on this one learned it as a child. Steady, small steps. Mind the ice at the bend by the shrine and keep the gate in sight. The castle grows as the road climbs, and it grows the way castles are meant to grow, in layers. First the outer wall, running along the rock with its towers set like knuckles. Then above and behind it the inner wall taller, with the great gatehouse, and above everything the keep itself. The oldest tower, square and massive, where the first lord built when there was nothing up here but wind. 3 rings, one inside the other, like a hearth banked 3 times over. 700 years ago, this was simply how you said, in stone, what every household says at nightfall. Come in, close the door, be safe. The people on the road are the castle's evening tide, coming home. A falconer with a hooded bird on his fist, talking to it softly. 2 woodsmen with a sled of split oak. The reeve of the village, riding up with accounts to settle and staying, no doubt for supper. A pair of boys who were sent down for rope this morning and are coming back at dusk, which surprises no one who has ever been a boy. Each of them checks the sky out of habit, gauging the snow, and each of them checks the gatehouse, gauging the time. The horn has sounded once. It will sound again at closing. At the road's last bend before the climb stands the wayside shrine, a stone niche on a post, roofed with 2 slates, holding a small worn figure of St. Christopher with a stub of candle at his feet. Travelers going up light nothing, being nearly home. Travelers going down in the dark months often stop, strike a light, and leave the little flame burning behind them for the road's sake. There is one burning now. The reeve lit it on his way up this afternoon, out of a habit he would call nothing at all. It will gutter out in an hour. The snow will hood the saint's head, and he will stand his post through the dark like every other watchman on this hill. The oldest roads of this country are strung with such small stone kindnesses, night lights for the land itself. 700 years on, walkers will still find them, empty and nameless, and slow their step without knowing why. Up close, the walls stop being a shape and become a fact. They rise out of the rock as if they had grown there, stone on stone, each block squared by a mason, who is now 7 generations of masons ago. Moss and lichen hold the north faces. High up, the snow sits on every ledge and arrow slit like wool laid out on shelves. A wall like this is not so much seen as felt. It leans its great patient weight on the evening, and everything inside its shadow, the road, the carts, the travelers, feels the difference between out there and in here long before the gate. The drawbridge is down, and the timbers of it boom softly underfoot, the moat below showing black water between plates of ice. Overhead, the gatehouse arch swallows the road whole. There are murder holes up there in the vaulting, and the great iron teeth of the portcullis hang ready in their grooves. And none of it feels fearsome tonight, because all of it is on your side. That is the castle's oldest trick and the sweetest. All that strength, and you walk under it in 3 steps, and now it stands between you and everything cold in the world. Inside the arch torchlight, the yard opens ahead, full of the day's last business, and the warmth of the place arrives all at once, wood smoke and stable straw and bread somewhere, and the sound of voices off stone. Behind us, the road runs back down into the blue dark, and the snow goes on falling over the valley, patient and endless. Let it fall. The walls are thick and the fire is kept, and we are inside. The closing of a castle's gates is the truest sunset it has, and it happens with the calm of a thing done 10,000 times. The horn sounds from the gatehouse roof, 2 long notes, and the sound rolls down the valley and comes back faint from the far ridge. Last call. The porter stands in the arch with his keys on his belt, counting the stragglers in the unhurried way of a man who knows exactly who is still out. The reeve's horse, the boys with the rope, one woodcutter, whistling in the dark somewhere below in his own good time. The porter of a great castle is a man worth knowing. He has kept this gate for 30 years, and he holds with some justice that he is the true master of the place, since nothing enters or leaves except through his arch. He knows every face in the valley, and the name of every dog. He can judge a stranger's business by the way they sit a horse, and he has never once, he will tell you, been wrong, though the kitchen holds a different count. His lodge in the gatehouse wall has a stool, a brazier, a horn cup, and a slot window that sees the whole road. It is a small kingdom, and it is absolutely his. The last woodcutter comes up out of the dark at his own pace, as woodcutters do, and gives the porter a nod that 30 winters of this exact evening have polished smooth. Then the great business begins. The drawbridge chains take up their slack, link by link, groaning through the wheels in the tower above, and the long timber deck tilts up out of the snow, shedding a little white as it rises. The moat disappears behind it. The valley disappears behind it. At the last, the bridge sits home against the arch with a boom that you feel in the ground, and the first door of the night is shut. Then the gates themselves, 2 leaves of oak as thick as a man's chest, studded with iron, swinging on hinges that 6 men together could not lift. They come together slowly and meet with a sound like a quiet word, and the porter sets the great bar across them, a whole squared tree sliding through iron staples, seating into its socket in the stone. Last of all, the portcullis comes down, hand over hand on the winch above. The iron grid descends through its grooves until its teeth rest in the sills. 3 doors, one behind the other, and the whole ceremony takes less time than the telling, and no one watches it happen. That is the measure of a good castle. Its greatest daily act is boring. The keys themselves deserve their word, since the whole night now hangs on them. 7 on the porter's great ring, iron, worn bright at the wards with handling, each as long as a hand. The gate, the postern, the water gate above the cliff path, the jail that is empty and has been empty 2 years, and 3 more whose doors the porter could find blindfolded and drunk, which has been, historically, tested. At full dark he carries the ring to the hall and hands it to the steward, and the steward hands it each night to the lord, and the lord sets it by the great bed. And that small procession, 3 pairs of hands, gate to hall to chamber, is the castle locking itself the way a man checks his own pockets. In the morning, it runs the other way. No one thinks about it. Everyone would notice in their bones if it stopped. Stand a moment in the gatehouse arch after the closing, because the quality of the quiet has changed. The wind is still there, but it is outside now, mumbling against oak instead of at your ear. The snow is still falling, but it is falling on the far side of iron. Every sound in the yard behind you, hooves shifting, a bucket set down, someone laughing by the smithy, has come indoors somehow, gathered close, the way sounds gather under a roof. A castle at night is one great room, open to the stars in the middle, and the closing of the gates is the shutting of its door. The porter makes his last look through the slot window, at the road going dim, at the snow filling the day's ruts, and turns to his brazier and his supper, which the kitchen sends to him at the gate. Since he cannot leave it, he will hear anything that comes up the road long before it knocks. Nothing will come up the road. Nothing does, in deep winter in the dark. That is not a worry up here. It is the whole point. The walls are thick, and the fire is kept, and the night can do exactly as it likes. Cross the yard, past the well and the woodpile, and follow the light and the noise to the great hall, because at this hour everything in the castle flows there. The hall is the castle's heart, and it is one vast room, long as a tithe barn, with a roof of black timber arches high overhead, and a fire down the middle of the floor that has been the center of this household since the first stone was laid. Trestle tables run the length of it, benches filling with folk, and the smoke rises up through the roof louver past banners, whose colors have gone soft with years of it. Supper in a castle hall in winter is the day's great gathering, and it sorts itself by old habit. At the far end, on a low dais, the high table, where the lord and lady sit with the chaplain and the steward and tonight the reeve, who is enjoying himself. Down the hall, the long tables, garrison and grooms and clerks and craftsmen, maids and foresters, and the falconer with his bird set on a perch behind him. Perhaps 60 people, all told, under one roof. The noise of them is not loud. It is deep, a warm rumble of talk and benches and spoons, the sound a big room makes when it is full of people who are done working for the day. The food comes up from the kitchens in procession, and winter fare is the best fare, whatever summer claims. Great pots of pottage, thick with peas and barley and bacon, roast meats from the spit, carved at the boards, bread in trenchers, cheese in wheels, and hot spiced wine for the high table, and good ale for everyone. Ladled from jugs the pantler keeps filled without seeming to move. The lord eats what the hall eats, only with more ceremony, and sends the best cut of the roast down the tables to whichever man did the day's hardest work. Tonight it goes to the woodsman. Everyone approves. The hall runs on such small justices. The salt cellar stands mid-table at the high board, a small silver ship on a sea of white cloth, and it is the hall's quiet compass. Above the salt sit the honored, below it everyone else, in a gradient of custom so exact that no one has needed to say it aloud in living memory. The reeve tonight has been seated above, which he noted in the first heartbeat, and will tell his wife within the first minute of reaching home. The trumpeter marked the meals beginning from the gallery. The ewerer brought water and towels for the high table's hands. None of this is stiffness. It is the opposite. Ceremony, worn soft with use, is how a big room full of tired people runs itself sweetly, everyone knowing their place and their moment, no one needing to decide anything at all. The future will keep more of it than it thinks. Every family that has a chair that is somebody's chair is dining in this hall. The fire down the middle of the floor is a long hearth of its own kind, and it is minded like a beast of great value. A boy is assigned to it at all times, feeding it split oak from the stack by the door, keeping it even, sweeping the ash line. The heat of it fills the great room from the middle outward, and everyone in the hall has a fixed opinion about the best bench, the right distance, the seat where the draft from the door finds you, and the seat where it does not. These opinions are inherited. A man sits where his father sat. The fire has organized this room for 200 years, and it is not done yet. Winter is the season of the hall's stories. And tonight, between the clearing of the boards and the music, the hall gets one. It falls to the falconer, who has the gift. He tells the old one about the winter the wolves crossed the frozen river, in the great snow of the old lord's youth. The whole valley came up the hill then, cows and cradles and all. The hall slept 140 souls for a month. Half the room has heard it 50 times, which is the point of such stories. Not the news in them, but the return of them. The same bends in the same river. The children listen from the floor, with their chins on their fists. The old usher, who was a boy in that snow and appears in the story briefly and heroically with a dropped lantern, mouths his own part when it comes. Stories in a hall in winter are not entertainment. They are the household remembering aloud that it has always come through. After the boards are cleared, the hall softens into its evening. A harper sets up by the fire, and the talk quiets to let the music through, and then rises again, gently on top of it. Dice come out at one table, drafts at another. The chaplain and the steward argue happily about the calendar. The lady's small daughter escapes her nurse and makes a circuit of the entire hall, collecting attention like tolls, and is captured at last by the falconer, who shows her the hooded bird and tells her it is dreaming of mountains. The Lord watches all of it from the dais with his cup in his hand, doing the thing lords do on winter nights, which is nothing, slowly, in full view. His presence is the point. The hall settles under it like a room under a roof. Listen to the hall from the doorway a moment. The whole warm rumble of it, the harp threading through, the fire ticking and settling, the wind walking round the roof outside and finding no way in. 700 years from tonight, people will build rooms with glass walls and warm floors and lights without flame. And on winter nights, they will still gather in the kitchen, in the one warm room, drawn in toward the fire that is now a stove. Because this room is not really a medieval invention. It is the oldest room there is. The hall is simply the biggest version anyone had yet managed to build. The evening will run down slowly from here, and we will see where everyone goes. But mark this hour, because it is the castle's best. Every soul fed, every bench warm, snow on the roof and music by the fire. The walls are thick, and the fire is kept. In the whole dark valley, there is no better place to be, and everyone in this room quietly knows it. Behind the hall, down a stone passage worn into a shallow channel by 2 centuries of feet, the kitchens are finishing their long day, and a castle kitchen at night is a country all its own. It is a separate building, in fact, set apart across a small court for fear of fire, with a roof like a bell tower and hearths at both ends. All day it roars. Now, with supper served and the boards cleared, it has entered its second phase, the long unwinding, which every kitchen in every century knows, when the great heat is spent and the room becomes, for a few hours, the warmest and most comfortable place any servant can contrive a reason to be. The cook rules here, vast and unhurried, and his kingdom at this hour is being set to rights around him, spit scoured and racked, the great cauldrons scrubbed with sand and river stone, hung back on their hooks in descending order of size, a bronze family asleep on the wall, the knives cleaned and edged and laid away in their block by the window, counted twice, because the cook counts knives the way the steward counts silver. The boy who turns the spit, whose whole day is the fire's near side, is asleep already in the warm corner by the bread oven, in the spot that is his by right, and nobody moves him. Tomorrow's bread is the night's real work, and it happens now in the settling warmth. The bake oven is a deep brick vault beside the great hearth, fired this afternoon with bundled faggots, and the baker reads its heat with a bare arm held in the mouth of it, an instrument no better tool has ever replaced. The dough has been rising since supper in long wooden troughs under cloth, enough for 60 people, loaves for the hall, fine white manchets for the high table, and the broad flat loaves that will be tomorrow's trenchers. He shapes them on the floured board with his sleeves rolled. He sets them in with the long peel, and stops the oven's mouth with its iron door. All night the vault will hold its heat around them. It is the same craft in every world we have visited, and it is always done at night, and it always smells like the promise it is. The kitchen stores speak for the season. Braided onions and hard cheeses hang from the beams. Salted pork sleeps in barrels along the wall, and stockfish stiff as roof shingles waits in its own dry corner. Sacks of flour and peas and barley stand in the raised larder, off the stone against the damp, and the spice chest, small and iron-bound and worth more than everything else in the room together, sits locked by the cook's own stool. Winter provisioning is the castle's quiet masterpiece. The steward began filling these rooms in September, counting mouths against months, and everyone under this roof will eat until spring, because a careful man did sums by candlelight half a year ago. The last task of the kitchen's day is the fire itself, both hearths. It is done with the reverence it deserves. Coals raked together into their beds, ash drawn over in a smooth gray blanket, the andirons set, the hearth swept to its stones. Under the ash the heat will live until morning. The morning cook will wake it with kindling and a breath, and the kitchen's fire, which has not been fully out in anyone's memory, will go on being the castle's oldest living thing. The cook stands a moment when it is done, as all keepers of fires stand. He listens to the banked hearth's tick. Then he takes his candle and goes, leaving the room to its warmth, to the rising bread, and to the sleeping spitboy who has earned his corner. Stand in the doorway of the darkened kitchen and take the census by nose, as we always do. Wood smoke and bread, salt pork and onions, tallow and scoured stone, and under it all the deep sweet smell of a room that has fed people every single day for 200 years. The walls are thick and the fire is kept. Nowhere in the castle is that refrain more literally true than here, where the fire is the whole point, and the keeping of it is a craft, and the craft is as old as hunger. Off the kitchen passage, behind doors bound in iron, lie the rooms the household jokes about most and thinks about most, the buttery and the cellars, the castle's throat and stomach. The buttery is the domain of the butler, and his name simply means the man of the butts, the barrels, and he takes the meaning seriously. Ale in long ranks, brewed in the castle's own brewhouse, each barrel chalked with its brewing day in his own marks. Wine from the south in fewer, prouder casks. He draws for the hall by measure, keeps his tally on a notched stick, and has never in his life been hurried by anyone below the rank of the lady herself. The cellars run deeper. Cut half into the living rock the castle stands on, and going down into them with a lantern is a small journey into the hill itself. The air changes on the stair, cool and still and smelling of earth, stone and sweet apples. This is the cold larder of the whole establishment, and the dark down here is a tool, kept on purpose. Apples in straw on long shelves, each one turned weekly by a boy who knows what happens to the one bad apple left unturned. Roots in sand-filled bins, carrots and turnips sleeping like letters in a file, honey in stoppered crocks and butter potted deep, and along the coldest wall the barrels of salted things, ranked by the month they must be opened. The steward walks these rooms every evening with his lantern and his ledger, and his round is one of the castle's quiet offices. He counts nothing fully, that is done monthly, but he looks at everything, the way a shepherd looks over a flock, reading for the one thing out of place, a weep of damp on the north wall, gone by tomorrow if a drain is cleared today. A barrel that sounds wrong when his knuckle asks it, the level of the flour against the mark in his mind, measured against the level of the winter against the calendar in his bones. 700 years before anyone writes the phrase, this man is running an inventory system, and running it well by candlelight in fingerless gloves. The arithmetic of a castle winter deserves a moment's respect, because everyone sleeping above these cellars sleeps on it. 60 mouths, fed twice daily, from All Hallows to Easter. So many quarters of grain, so many barrels of ale brewed and brewing, so much salt meat against the deep months, and a margin over all of it for the guests who arrive unlooked for, and the spring that comes late. The steward holds the whole sum in his head, the way the mason holds the wall. If he has done his work, no one ever thinks about it. Supper simply appears, night after night all winter, like the sun rising. The cellars are the reason, and the steward's evening lantern is the flame that checks the promise nightly. The chandlery keeps its own cool room off the cellar stair, and it holds the castle's light supply the way the granary holds its bread. Wax candles for the chapel and the solar, in banded chests, counted by the pound and worth nearly their weight in cheese. Tallow candles for everywhere else, ranked by length on their shelves like organ pipes, and rushlights by the sheaf, peeled rushes dipped in kitchen fat. The poor bright pennies of light that the working castle actually burns, one to an errand. The steward's winter arithmetic runs on light as surely as on flour. So many hours of dark between All Hallows and Candlemas, so many pounds of wax and tallow to hold against it. That second word, Candlemas, sits in the calendar like a milestone, the feast when the light stores are blessed, and the days are visibly winning again. Every candle lit tonight, in chapel and chamber and stair, was counted into this winter months ago. Even the light here is harvested, and stored and kept. There is one more door down here, the deepest, and behind it the strong room, where the castle's small heavy things sleep. The silver plate for feast days, wrapped in fleece. The coin chest, banded and triple-locked, the steward holding one key, the lord another, and the third being a story nobody tells the same way twice. Charters and deeds in their wax and ribbons, the parchment memory of every field and mill, and right the family holds. It is the quietest room in the castle, and the stillest, and the lantern light moves over the locked chests like a watchman over sleepers. Even wealth in a good house is just one more thing tucked in for the night. Climb back up the cellar stair toward the warmth, past the buttery where the butler is chalking his last barrel, and let the heavy door swing shut on the cool dark and its sweet apple smell. Below us now, the hill holds the winter's whole provision in its stone hands, counted, turned, dry and sleeping. The walls are thick and the fire is kept, and the larder is full. Those three facts together are the entire architecture of a safe winter, and this castle has all three, and knows it and sleeps the better for it. Across the yard, where the snow is settling unmarked now that the day's traffic is done, the long range of the stables runs warm against the outer wall, and it is worth pushing the door for. Inside, out of the wind, the world is straw and breath, and the enormous patience of horses. A double row of stalls, the great war horses of the Lord's Maney at one end, the palfreys and rounceys and the abbot-faced old mule in the middle, and the cart horses at the far end, still nose-deep in their hay after the day's hauling. The air is warmer here than in some chambers of the keep, horse-warmed, straw-sweet, and the only sounds are the shift of hooves in bedding, the working of hay, and the long sighs that horses save for after dark. The grooms make their last round with a lantern, and it is the same round every yard in every century makes, the settling round. Water buckets topped from the trough, the ice broken and skimmed, hay racks filled for the night, a blanket buckled on the old mule, who is owed it, and a check of the war horses near 4, which took a stone bruise on the frozen road last week and is mending. The head groom does the round himself in winter, candle lantern held high, and he talks his way down the row as he goes, a word to each, a hand on a few. Horses stand their nights easier in a barn where the voices are known. So do grooms, in the warmest stall, deep in straw. The stable's great event of the winter sleeps against his mother's side. A colt, foaled early and against all advice in the cold season, black as the moat, and on the evidence of his first 3 weeks, convinced the entire castle was built for him. By day, he is the yard's public entertainment. By night, he is what he is now, a small dark comma folded in the straw, legs improbable, ears twitching at dreams of he cannot yet know what. The head groom, who has scolded everyone in the castle about drafts on this stall's account, looks in on him last of every round, and his lantern lingers there longer than strictly required. The old lord's line runs through this stable, as surely as through the solar, and the groom can recite it, sire by sire, back 60 years. The colt sleeps on, ignorant of his pedigree, warm at the heart of it. The kennels answer the stables from the other side of the yard, and the castle's hounds are bedded deep tonight, a pile of running dogs in the straw, sorted by their own politics into one interleaved heap of warmth. The old limer bitch, the finder of every hunt for 10 seasons, has the place by the kennel hearth wall, and the young hounds arrange themselves around her rank by rank. The kennel boy sleeps in the loft above his charges, and he can tell from up there, half asleep, the difference between a dog dreaming and a dog hearing something, and the whole castle trusts his ear more than it says. Nothing crosses the yard by night that the kennel does not know. In the mews beside the kennels, the falcons sit their perches in the dark, hooded and still, and theirs is the strangest sleep in the castle. Upright talon to the perch, feathers loose just a little, each bird a carved thing in the lantern light. The falconer looks in last of all, not to do anything, only to stand a moment in the doorway and let them hear that the night is ordinary. His birds are worth more than horses, and he loves them past all sense, and he would deny both facts to a stranger in the same breath. On the wall above the perches hang the hoods and jesses and tiny bells, the whole small jewelry of an art that is already old tonight, 700 years ago. The beasts of a castle are its second household, and in winter the two households lean on each other closely. The horses haul the wood that warms the hall. The hounds guard the walls the household sleeps behind. The falcons, in honest accounting, mostly cost money and look magnificent, which is also a duty, and they discharge it perfectly. In return, the household carries water and breaks ice and forks hay and sleeps, some of it, in lofts above the mangers by choice, because a stable in winter is the kindest bedroom a working boy can have, warm all night with no fire to mind, and full of the steadiest company on earth. Latch the stable door behind you and stand a breath in the yard. The snow comes down through the torchlight in slow fat flakes, and from either side of you faintly comes the night sound of the animal castle, a hoof, a dream whimper from the kennel heap, the tiny ring of a falcon's bell as a bird shifts its stance, all of it bedded, all of it minded, all of it inside the walls. The walls are thick, and the fire is kept, and the beasts sleep first, as they always have, so the people can sleep after. Tucked against the inner wall, where the yard narrows, a low door under a carved arch opens into the castle's chapel, and stepping into it is like stepping into a held breath. It is a small room, high and narrow, stone-vaulted. It is cold in the way of holy places, a clean cold that feels kept rather than suffered. One lamp burns above the altar, a steady red point in the dimness. 2 candles stand lit before a painted image of the Virgin. Her cloak is the deep, expensive blue that the lady's grandmother paid for. Her face has gone soft and kind, with candle smoke and years. The chaplain says the last office of the day here at Compline, and the household drifts in by its own custom, not all, and not by command. The lady comes most nights, with her daughters and her women. The steward comes when his ledgers let him. Tonight a dozen souls stand and kneel in the candlelight, while the chaplain's voice walks through the old Latin, unhurried, worn smooth as the stair stones, and the small room takes the words and rounds them, gently overhead the way stone always does. Most of those present do not follow the Latin, and it does not matter, and no one 700 years ago would think it should. The sound itself is the blessing. It is the day being folded and put away. The prayers of a castle at night are plain, whatever the language. Keep this house. Keep everyone in it. Keep the travelers on the roads, the shepherds in the fold hills, the sick in the infirmary, the souls of the dead lords who built these walls and lie now under the chapel floor, with their names going smooth underfoot. The candles bend and straighten. The snow touches the one narrow window like moths. When the office ends, there is no procession out, only a quiet unnodding, people crossing themselves and slipping away to their beds by ones and twos. And the lady last, as is her habit, with one look back at the lamp. The chapel keeps two treasures, and they say everything about the house. The first is a relic in a small gilt shrine on the altar, a fragment of bone of a saint whose story the chaplain tells differently at feast and at fireside, and whose protection the household counts on with an easy familiarity that is 9 parts affection. The second is newer, a book, a psalter, written and painted 2 generations back, chained to its desk not from distrust but from love, the way you tether what you cannot replace. Its margins hold gold leaf and small wry beasts, a rabbit with a bell, a knight fighting a snail, jokes made by a monk long dead for readers not yet born. The lady's daughters turn its pages under the chaplain's eye on Sundays, very slowly, with clean hands. After the last soul has gone, the chaplain banks the chapel's one small brazier, snuffs the candles with a practiced pinch, and leaves only the altar lamp burning. That lamp is his charge and his pride. It has not gone out, he will tell you, in his lifetime nor in his predecessors, and it is filled and trimmed as faithfully as any watchfire on the walls. A castle keeps 2 flames always, the kitchen's and this one, the body's fire and the soul's. And on a deep winter night, it would be a bold philosopher who could say certainly which one the household needs more. The chapel holds its red star in the dark, and the dead lords sleep under the floor, and the snow strokes the window, and the room prays on by itself, in the way of rooms where prayer has soaked into the stone. Close the low door softly, and step back into the yard. Above the wall, the sky has cleared a little, and stars stand sharp between the moving clouds. Somewhere a dog stirs and resettles. The chapel lamp glows dim red through the narrow window behind you. One more kept fire among the castle's many. The walls are thick and the fire is kept, said the refrain all evening, and here is its quietest verse. Some of the fires are small and burn for other reasons, and are kept just as carefully. Climb now the turning stair in the thickness of the keep's wall. Snow sifts in through the arrow slits to lie in little drifts on the steps. Up we go to the floor above the great hall, where the Lord's family lives its private life. The room at the stairhead is called the solar, the sun room. It is named for the light it catches by day through windows larger than a war architect would like. That luxury the family won by building high. By night it is the castle's warmest and most human chamber, firelit, wool-hung and small enough at last to feel like what it is, a home folded inside a fortress. The walls of the solar are dressed in tapestries, and they are the room's pride and its insulation both. Hunting scenes and orchards, a unicorn resting in a fenced garden, ladies at falconry under impossible blue trees, all woven far away and carried here at great cost, and all serving, whatever their beauty, the plain purpose of keeping the stones cold at arm's length. Behind the cloth, the walls run with chill. Before it, the fire's warmth stays in the room. The floor is laid with rushes and sweet herbs, renewed weekly, and the hearth here is a proper wall chimney, the newest thing in the castle, drawing clean and throwing heat. The marvel of the age installed one floor above a hall still smoking through its roof like the old world it is. The family's evening gathers by that chimney fire. The lord in his chair with the day's letters, read once at speed and now again slowly. the way he was taught. The lady sits at her embroidery frame, working a border of periwinkles. Her needle moves with the calm of a woman who has run this household through 9 winters. She knows precisely how much trouble tomorrow holds. The daughters on cushions at the hearth with the household's third-best hound, teaching it, without success, to offer a paw. The nurse in the corner with the spinning she keeps for her hand's own comfort. Talk moves easily and lands nowhere. The fire does most of the saying. The Lord's business, such as reaches this room, is the business of every landed man in winter. A letter from his brother at the king's court, full of news that will be stale by spring and gossip that will not. The steward's sums, approved by candlelight. A dispute between 2 tenants about a boundary oak, to be judged when the snow clears, and privately already decided, since the Lord climbed that oak as a boy and knows exactly whose land it stands on. War is nowhere in the letters this winter. Peace sits on the country like the snow itself, and a wise lord, warming his boots, wishes only that both would lie deep and stay long. On the chest by the window stands the Cellars' other fire, the chessboard, and it is mid-siege. The lord and the chaplain keep a running game through the winter, 1 move a night each, sometimes 2. It is a pace that would madden a summer man, and it suits December perfectly. The pieces are walrus ivory, carved 2 generations back. Kings with faces like sleepy judges, knights on stout little horses, warders biting their shields. The chaplain is winning, as he is most winters. He manages the fact with elaborate humility. The Lord endures it with the good grace of a man who owns the board. Tonight's move was made before supper. The Lord's answering move will come tomorrow, and he will turn it over as he falls asleep, which the chaplain, who knows him 30 years, is counting on. A game of an entire winter's length, played by firelight between the sword and the church, and nobody keeps score past the spring. The future has faster everything. It will never have slower chess, and slower in games as in nights is the luxury. The little ceremony of the night candle ends the Cellars' evening. The lady lights it herself from the fire, a single fat candle in a pierced brass lantern, and by its small spangled light the family says its brief prayers. The daughters are herded, protesting gently, toward the chamber they share beyond the arras. The Lord makes his own last round of the room, a habit his father kept and his son will keep. He checks the shutters' bars and banks the chimney fire. He stands 1 moment at the narrow east window, where the valley shows dark and the snow luminous under the risen moon. Whatever a man holds, he holds it best at that window, at that hour, with the household breathing around him and the cold shut out. We will leave the family to its sleep in a moment, but linger by the banked fire briefly, because the Cellar teaches the castle's gentlest lesson. All the stone below and around this room, the walls, the towers, the iron and oak of the gates, all of it exists so that somewhere in the middle of it a woman can embroider periwinkles by firelight, and a child can fall asleep teaching a dog to shake hands. Fortresses are not built for war, whatever the builders say. They are built for this room. The walls are thick, and the fire is kept, and the keeping has a purpose, and the purpose has just been carried to bed, yawning. The Lord's chamber lies beyond the Cellar, and at the heart of it stands the most famous piece of furniture in the castle, the great bed. It is a room within a room, a timber frame carved and pegged like a ship's cabin, hung all around with heavy woolen curtains, and dressed in layers that the lady's mother assembled over a lifetime, feather beds on rope lattice, linen sheets, wool blankets, furs over all, and the whole assembly high enough off the floor that a small stair of 2 steps stands beside it. In a stone room in deep winter, this is not display, it is engineering. The curtains close, The body's warmth gathers, and inside that wool box the January night is simply repealed. Beds like this are the treasures of their age, and the castle knows this one's whole biography. It came with the lady's grandmother as the finest thing in her wedding train, carted 40 miles wrapped in waxed canvas, and it has been the family's harbor ever since. Children born in it, 3 generations now. The old lord died in it, well, at 80, with the priest at hand and the January wind at the shutters, which was counted then, and is counted still the best death the age could offer. When the family speaks of home, this is the object they mean and do not name. Houses hold beds mostly. A bed like this holds the house, and here is the thing the future will find strangest, and the thing our night is quietly built around. Almost no one in this castle sleeps alone, and no one thinks anyone should. The lord and lady share the great bed, as a matter of course, and on the coldest nights the youngest daughter is fetched in 2, curtains drawn, the 3 of them in one warm dark. The daughters share their bed beyond the arras. The ladies' women share the truckle beds that roll from beneath it. The garrison sleeps 2 to a pallet in the towers, and the grooms sleep in a warm row in the loft. To sleep alone in this world is to be either very holy or very unlucky. Warmth is company, and company is warmth, and the language does not yet trouble to separate the 2 ideas. The night itself has a shape here that the future will also forget, and it is worth telling under the firs. Sleep 700 years ago often comes in 2 watches. The household drops off early, in the first deep sleep of worked bodies. Somewhere past the middle of the night, many wake, softly and without alarm, for an hour or so of quiet. The lord may pray, or think on the boundary oak. The lady may talk low with him. The old married murmur behind the curtains, or simply lie listening to the wind take its census of the towers. In the towers the watch changes. In the kennels a dog resettles. Then the second sleep takes everyone down again, until the gray of morning. 2 sleeps with a still hour between, like a long breath with a rest in it. Nobody taught it. The winter nights are simply long enough to hold it. The warming of the bed is its own small evening craft, and the chambermaid performs it nightly with the long-handled pan. Coals from the solar fire go into the brass pan, and the lid closes. The pan travels between the sheets in slow sweeps, up one side and down the other. It drives the days stone cold out of the linen. On the coldest nights, the pan is joined by the stones, smooth river stones that lie on the chamber hearth, heated through and wrapped in flannel. They are set at the bed's foot, where the sleeper's feet will find them. They hold their warmth past midnight, and cool so gradually that no one ever feels them go. Half the villages of this valley do the same with a brick from the oven. It is the age's entire science of comfort, thermal mass and wool, and it wants nothing from the future. A warmed bed in a cold room, the body's own heat gathered and held, is an arrangement no later century has improved, only complicated. The chamber around the great bed keeps its own small night lights and offices. The night candle in its pierced lantern, throwing a slow constellation on the beams, a ewer and basin on the chest, the water skimmed with ice by morning, the Lord's sword on its peg, more habit than fear, the way a man hangs his coat where his hand knows, and beneath the window the lady's small locked casket of letters and rings, which she checks with a touch each night, not counting, just greeting. Every world we have walked has these small bedside rituals, the pat of the pocket, the glance at the latch. Sleep is a departure, and people set their houses in order before any journey, even a nightly one. The curtains are drawn now, and the great bed becomes what it was built to be, a lit window going dark, a ship with its lanterns doused, riding quietly at anchor in a stone harbor. Outside its wool walls, The chamber cools hour by hour, and the castle cools around the chamber, and the winter leans on the castle with all its weight, and none of that weight arrives here under the firs, where 3 warm sleepers breathe in the dark. The walls are thick, and the fire is kept, and the innermost wall of the whole fortress, when you follow the rings all the way in, is a woolen curtain, and the innermost fire is a family asleep. While the family settles above, the rest of the castle is solving its oldest nightly puzzle, where 60 people sleep, and solving it the way it is solved every night, with straw, wool, custom, and rank. There are few bedchambers in a castle, and they are spoken for. Everyone else sleeps where their work and their station put them, and the pudding is as fixed as the stones. The castle at night is not a house with people in beds. It is a warren of warm corners, each one owned, each one inherited, each one defended with the mildness of absolute certainty. The great hall turns itself into the largest dormitory after the fire burns low, trestles cleared to the walls, straw pallets unrolled from the aisles, and the hall servants and lesser folk bed down in the long warmth the day's fire has left in the room, wrapped in cloaks, feet toward the banked hearth. The benches by the fire itself go by seniority, and the seniority is ancient. An old usher of the hall holds the best bench tonight as he has held it 20 years, and will hold it, the room agrees, until the day he does not come to claim it, and no one will take it for a season after, out of respect. The hall sleeps 40 souls tonight, breathing in the smoky dark under the high black roof, and it has slept 40 souls a night for 200 years. The garrison beds down in the towers, 2 men to a pallet in the wall chambers, their gear on pegs above them in strict order, boots below, so that a man roused in the dark can dress by touch alone. It is not fear that keeps the order. Nothing has roused this garrison in living memory, but weather and one memorable cow. It is craft kept for its own sake, the way the falconer keeps his hoods oiled. Soldiers with nothing to fight polish the readiness itself, and sleep the better beside it. Their small hearths are banked, their dice and debts set down, and the oldest of them, who served the old lord, snores tonight with the delicate authority of furniture. Everywhere else, the castle's warm corners take their tenants. The kitchen boys in the bay coven's orbit, the grooms in the hayloft over the horses, the kennel boy above his dogs, the porter on his cot in the gate lodge with his keys under the bolster. The steward has a narrow chamber off his counting room, monkish by choice, and the chaplain another by the chapel, and the laundress and her daughters share the warm room behind the brewhouse, where the day's coals die slowly under the coppers. Follow any warmth in this castle to its source tonight, and you will find someone asleep beside it, arranged there by a custom so old it feels like natural law. Heat is the castle's true currency, and at night everyone is paid. One room in the castle sleeps more carefully than the rest, and it deserves its quiet visit. The infirmary, 2 beds in a warm chamber off the chapel passage, where the household sick are kept close to both the kitchen's broth and the chaplain's prayers, an arrangement of perfect medieval logic. 1 bed is empty tonight, folded and ready. In the other lies a young groom with a broken arm, splinted and bound by the infirmarer's own hands, the break already knitting, the boy already bored, which the infirmarer calls the best of all signs. She is the castle's healer, an old widow with a locked cupboard of syrups and simples, comfrey for bones, whorehound for chests, poppy for the worst nights only, and her fee for everything is obedience. The groom sleeps now with his arm on a pillow, dreaming by the twitch of him of riding. A small fire is kept here all night, the only chamber fire in the castle that never gets banked. Some keepings outrank even the rules of keeping. Listen to the castle now from the middle of the yard. As the last candles go out window by window, the snow has eased, and the cold has deepened the way it does under clearing skies. And from every side comes the low sound of a fortress breathing. 60 sleepers behind 3 rings of stone, horses below, hounds in their heap, falcons on their perches, family behind wool, garrison behind iron, servants in the long warm dark of the hall, each in the exact place their station and their years have earned. The whole order of the little world visible one last time in where its people lie down. Then a cloud crosses the moon, and the yard goes dim, and the castle is simply one shape, sleeping. The walls are thick, and the fire is kept. By now, you have heard the refrain enough to know it is not really about masonry. It is about this hour, when a whole society lies down inside its own arrangements and trusts them till morning. Stone keeps the wind out, but it is custom that puts every sleeper in a warm and certain place. And custom is the wall that never needed building. Sleep now, castle. The watch is set, and we will go up to them next. Up on the wall walk, the night belongs to 4 men and a brazier, and it is a different world by 1 flight of stairs. The warmth of the courtyard falls away behind the tower door, and the wind arrives with its whole voice, streaming off the ridge with a taste of pine and iron, and the walk stretches away along the battlements, a snow-dusted path in the sky. The watch stands in fur-lined hoods and wrapped boots, leaning in the sheltered angles of the merlons, and their brazier glows in its iron basket by the tower door, the highest kept fire in the castle, and its keepers would say, the most necessary. The night watch of a peaceful castle is a strange and lovely office. Nothing is coming tonight. Everyone knows nothing is coming. The land is deep in the king's peace. The passes are shut with snow, and the nearest trouble is a tavern quarrel 2 valleys away. And yet the watch is set, fully, formally, 4 men and rounds and passwords, because a castle keeps its habits the way the chaplain keeps his lamp. The habit is the point. Walls unwatched are just stone. Watched, they are a promise kept nightly, and the whole valley sleeps on the keeping. The rounds go by turns, 2 walking, 2 at the brazier. The walkers take the circuit slowly, along the outer wall, up the steps of each tower, a glance from each post down and on. Their eyes are on the country more from custom than inquiry. The white valley, the black river line, the far small lights of the village fires banked low. Their talk, when they pause in the lee of a tower, is the talk of all-night watches everywhere. The cold, graded expertly against other colds. The sergeant's dog expecting pups. Whether the cook's morning loaves can be charmed out of him an hour early by a man coming off watch. A question with 40 years of settled precedent behind it, all favorable. The password changes nightly, set by the sergeant at sundown, and it is the garrison's small nightly poetry. Tonight it is millstone. Last night it was wren. The words are drawn from a list in the sergeant's head that no man has ever seen the pattern of, and challenging by the book is done in full even between men who have known each other 20 years, because the form is the thing. Who goes? A friend. The word then, millstone, pass friend, 2 grown men, alone on a wall in the middle of a peaceful winter, performing the little rite as their fathers performed it. And if you think it foolish, consider that the same men would tell you the chapel Latin matters too, and could not translate a line of it. Some words work by meaning. Watch words work by being kept, and the cow must be told, since the watch will tell you anyway before the night is out. 9 winters back, on a night much like this one, the alarm was raised in earnest, horns, torches, the garrison to the walls in their shirts. the whole valley's peace hanging by a thread. It was a cow, the miller's, adrift from the byre, standing in the frozen moat ditch, answering the sentry's challenge with the mildest possible interest. The sergeant of that night has heard about it at every feast since, and will hear about it at his funeral, and knows it, and has made his peace. Every garrison keeps one such story, polished like the halberds, and for the same reason. It is the shape peace takes in an armory. A war story would be worse. From the wall, the sleeping castle below, is a map of everything we have walked tonight. The great hall's long roof, snow-covered, breathing smoke gently from its louver. The kitchen's bell tower roof beside it. The chapel's small red window. The Cellars' shuttered lights gone dark. The yard a clean white page, crossed by one line of cat prints. The watch sees it whole every night, the way we are seeing it now. And though they would never use such words, they know their office plainly. Everything inside this wall is asleep because they are not. 4 men awake, so 60 can be gone. It is the oldest bargain in the world. And tonight, in the wind, in the starlight, it is being kept again. How the watch tells the hours, with no clock in 40 miles, is a craft worth learning at the brazier. The stars are the wheel, and the sergeant reads them the way the steward reads his rolls. The plow swings round the North Star through the night like the hand of a dial, and its tilt against the keep's corner says the watch changes as plainly as any bell. The winter hunter, striding up the southern sky with his bright belt, marks the deep middle. When he leans low to the west, the worst of the cold is coming, and the last watch is near. Cloudy nights are harder, and then the watch falls back on the older instruments, the burn time of the brazier's logs, the abbey's far bell when the wind allows, and the body itself, which after 20 years of walls knows the hour the way a miller's hand knows the weight of a sack. No man up here owns anything that ticks. None of them has ever been late. The far watch has the best of it, the North Tower, where the wall turns along the cliff and the whole upper valley opens under the moon. The snow has stopped entirely now, and the sky is sweeping itself clear, and the stars come out over the ridge, the way they only do in deep cold, hard and many and close. The watchman there stands his turn looking out over 10 miles of sleeping country, farms and folds and the frozen river, all of it silver, none of it stirring, and the burning cold makes the long minutes strangely pure. Men come off that post quiet. It is the closest thing the garrison has to the chapel. The middle of the night will pass through the watch like a slow river, marked by the turning of rounds and the feeding of the brazier, and we will come back up here before dawn. For now, leave them to it, 2 at the fire, 2 on the walk, boots creaking the snow along the battlements. The walls are thick, and the fire is kept, and here on the wall walk both halves of the refrain are on duty at once, the stone under their feet and the coals in the iron basket, and between the 2 of them the night is held. Highest of all, above the walls and the towers and the sleeping roofs, the old keep lifts its head into the night, and its roof platform is the castle's crown. Climb the last dark spiral with a lantern, past the storerooms and the old muniment chamber, and come out through the low door into the enormous air. This is the top of the little world. The platform is a square of lead and snow behind a parapet, with the watch's signal brazier standing ready and unlit in its corner. And from here, turning slowly, you can see everything the castle is for. The valley lies below in full moonlight now, and it is one of the great sights of this or any century. The river makes its black winding line through white meadows. The village sleeps at the castle's foot, a cluster of snow-backed roofs with the church tower standing over them, one faint gleam in its belfry window. Beyond, the fields run up in their long strips to the wood shore, and the forest rolls back from there over the shoulders of the hills, black under the moon, holding its deer and its charcoal burners' cold hearths. Far up the valley, a single point of light burns steady, the hermitage above the ford, where an old man keeps a lamp for travelers who never come in winter. The watch checks that light nightly, fond of it, the way you check a distant friend's window. From this height, the castle explains itself better than any chronicle. See how the roads of the valley, snow-gray under the moon, all bend toward the gate below. How the village leans close under the walls, the way chicks stand under a hen. How the beacon braziers on the far hills, unlit and hopefully never lit, answer this rooftop one to the next, a chain of dark fires waiting across the whole country like unstruck bells. Stone by stone, the first lord built this tower so that this valley could stop being afraid of the dark. 700 years on, the arrangement holds. The valley sleeps, the tower watches, neither remembers any other way. The keep beneath your feet is the castle's elder, and it keeps the family's whole long story in its stones. Down its dark stair are rooms now used for storage that were once the only rooms there were. The first hall, smoke-blacked under later whitewash. The first chapel, a niche with a worn cross cut in the wall by some mason dead 6 centuries. The old lords held out here, once through a bad autumn in a bad rain, so long ago that the tale has gone soft at the edges, and the arrowheads the boys still sometimes find in the ditch are curiosities now, turned over in the palm and kept on shelves. Stone remembers everything and insists on nothing. That is why it makes such restful company. A star falls while you stand there, drawing its brief silver line above the ridge. The keep receives the news calmly, as it receives all news. The watch below will have seen it too, and will count it lucky. This valley counts most things in the sky lucky, on the sensible ground that the sky has been good to them. The old lord used to climb up here on clear winter nights with his falconer. The story goes, he came to do exactly what you are doing. Nothing, looking, letting the size of the night wash the smallness of the day off him. Towers are built for war and used 99 nights of the 100 for this. Stand at the parapet a last minute in the moon-flooded cold, with the lantern hooded at your feet and the whole white valley breathing below. The wind has dropped. The silence up here is enormous and layered. Snow silence over stone silence over the deep quiet of a sleeping country. And through it, faint and far, come the small sounds that make it deeper. The river working under its ice, a fox barking once, far off in the fields, answered by nothing. The tiny creak of the watch's boots on the wall below, right on time, rounds turning like a slow clockwork. Nothing in 10 miles is wrong. You can see that it is so, all of it from here. The walls are thick, and the fire is kept. From the keep's roof, the refrain grows to the size of the valley. Because the castle is itself the valley's kept fire. The warm stone hearth the whole white country is arranged around. Come down now, out of the enormous night, back toward the small warm rooms. The stair turns down into the dark, and the sleeping castle receives us floor by floor, warmer at every landing, like diving slowly into a warm sea. Before the deep hours take everything, walk out in story fashion through the shut gates and down the snowy road, because the castle does not sleep alone. At its foot, gathered where the road meets the river, the village lies under the moon, and its night is the castle's night in miniature, humbler, closer to the weather, and just as carefully kept. 2 rows of houses along one street, cruck-framed and deep-thatched, each roof a foot thick in straw and another half-foot in snow, each one breathing the thinnest thread of smoke from the eaves. The church at one end, the mill at the other, the whole of it silver and blue and asleep. Inside any of these houses, The winter night has the same shape. One long room, byre at the low end where the cow and the pig sleep behind wattle, family at the hearth end on straw and wool, the fire banked in the middle under its curfew, an earthen lid set over the coals to hold them safe till morning. That word curfew is this exact object, the couvre-feu, the fire cover, and the church bell that rings at dusk to say cover your fires, rings the same word into the language of the future. The cow's warmth is part of the house's warmth, counted on like a second hearth. The dog sleeps against the door. The people sleep close, all together, exactly as the castle sleeps, only nearer the ground. Listen at any byre door, and you hear the village second breathing. The cow stands or lies in her wattle stall at the house's low end. She is the household's slow, warm engine, wintering indoors like one of the family, which she is. She spends the night at the long work of her kind, the endless patient chewing. It is a sound like soft rain on the far side of the wattle. The family sleeps to it as to a hearth. Her warmth drifts up the single room and is counted in the house's budget of heat as surely as the wood. The pig has his corner and his opinions. The hens roost on the byre beam in a feathered row, heads under wings. A winter house in this valley is a small ark, people and beasts riding out the season together under one thatch, each warming the others, and no one aboard finds the arrangement anything but obvious. The future will separate them, house from barn, and will gain much by it, and will lose exactly this, the sound of the whole ark breathing. The village-kept fires are smaller than the castle's, and dearer for it. A cottage hearth lost in the night, in deep winter, with flint and steel and frozen tinder, is a cold morning's hard work and a neighbor's embarrassment. And so the banking of coals is done here with a care that borders on ceremony. The bay coven behind the third house holds the street's real treasure, tomorrow's bread heat, shared by 5 households, in a rotation that predates anyone living. The smith's forge at the street's end sleeps, banked under ash like a red seed, and in the church at the street's head, the sanctuary lamp burns its small answer to the castle chapels, 2 red stars, one above the valley and one within it, keeping the same watch. The church at the street's head keeps the village's other watchman, though he is asleep. The sexton, who is also the gravedigger, the clock of the parish, and the keeper of its one great voice, the bell. She hangs above him in the tower as he sleeps in his cottage against the churchyard wall, 300 weight of bronze, older than the castle's inner wall. With her name cast round her shoulder in letters, the sexton cannot read and knows by heart. She rang the curfew at dusk. She will ring the day in at dawn. Between the two she hangs silent over the sleeping street, doing the thing bells do at night, which is to be ready. A village lives inside its bells, hearing the way a household lives inside walls. The parish is, exactly, the land this bell can speak to. Tonight all of it is asleep, and the bell holds its bronze tongue, and the snow settles on the tower, and readiness, as the garrison could tell her, is also work. The miller's is the last house awake, as it often is, because the mill answers the weather and not the bell. The frozen race has been chained still. The great wheel hangs in icicles, and the miller sits up late by his fire mending sacks and listening, as millers always listen, to the ice on the river ticking and settling. His mill stones are quiet, but his mind runs on, turning the spring's work while the snow holds everything else stopped. In the loft, his children sleep in a row like loaves. By the door, the mill's cat, the acknowledged sovereign of every grain sack in the valley, waits for him to bank the fire so her night's work can begin in proper darkness. Between village and castle, the bond runs both ways, and winter shows it plainly. The village grinds the castle's grain, cuts its wood, fills its carts on market days. The castle holds the village court, keeps its road, and stands over it as the shape of safety itself. The place every cottage knows it would go, herding children and driving the cow, if trouble ever came up the valley again as it did in the old tales. It has not come for 100 years. The arrangement has settled into something like the relation of hill and river, argued about at rent time, relied on absolutely at night. The village sleeps unbarred mostly. The castle is its bar. Walk back up the road through the moonlight, letting the village fall behind roof by roof, until its street is one soft line in the white valley, and its smoke one faint smudge against the stars. The walls are thick and the fire is kept, and the refrain we find was never only the castle's. Every thatched roof down there is a wall, every curfew-covered hearth a kept fire, the same vow at cottage scale. A valley in winter is a constellation of small kept warmths, and the castle is simply the largest star in it. Now the road climbs, the gate arch rises black ahead, and we pass through shut oak the way only stories can, back into the yard where the snow lies unmarked. The yard of a castle by deep night is a room with the moon for a ceiling, and it is worth one slow circuit before the smallest hours. The day's churned snow has stiffened into a frozen record of everything that happened: cart ruts, hoof prints, the dragged line of the wood sled, the scuffle by the kitchen door where the boys settled something. New snow is filling the record in, gently, letter by letter. By morning the page will be blank again, and the day will write itself over. A yard is the castle's daybook, erased nightly, and no one reads it but the watch, the cats, and the occasional story passing through. The smithy stands against the wall by the stables, open-fronted, even cold. It is the yard's most masculine corner, all iron smell and hammer-scarred benches, and the great anvil sitting in the dark like a sleeping ox. The forge is banked under its ash blanket, a low red seed that the smith will blow into roaring life an hour after dawn. Around the walls hangs the iron biography of the castle: horseshoes in graded rows, hinge straps and cart tires, a plow coulter waiting for spring, and the halberd heads of the garrison, which the smith keeps bright and privately considers the least interesting things he makes. Iron for growing and hauling outweighs iron for war in this smithy 10-1, and has for a century, and that ratio is the true chronicle of the age, whatever the ballads sing. The well house in the yard center keeps the castle's deepest secret, which is water. The shaft goes down through the courtyard and on through the living rock, 60 fathoms of patient medieval labor, to a cold black pool that has never once failed. The winch stands frosted, the bucket hangs still, and a lid of oak keeps the snow out. Any castle can store grain. It is water that makes walls mean anything, and the first lord sank this well before he raised his tower, which tells you everything about the mind that built this place. The well house at night has a presence to it, plain as it is. The household walks past it the way you walk past a sleeping elder. Cats hold the yard's night franchise here, as everywhere we have ever walked. The castle keeps a loose dynasty of them, headquartered in the stables and the granary, and the yard between is their commons. 2 are abroad now, one moving along the kitchen wall with a proprietor's tread, one sitting perfectly still in the middle of the white expanse, doing the thing cats do at night in snow, which is to be a small black statue commemorating patience. The kennel knows they are out. The hounds have filed the knowledge under matters beneath response, and sleep on. The old treaty holds, here as in Pompeii, as in the Abbey, as on the Nile. The little fierce ones get the night, provided the night stays quiet. Sounds cross the yard at this hour, with a clarity the day never allows. The chapel lamp's window gives no sound, but the brazier on the wall walk does, A faint settling of coals, 60 feet up. A horse shifts in the stable, straw rustling, and is still. Deep under the hall, a beam eases against its stone with a sound like a knuckle cracking. It is the castle's bones settling in the cold. Every sleeper in the place has heard that sound all their lives, and none of them hears it anymore. And under everything that softest of all winter sounds, the hiss of snow on snow, filling the yard's page, rounding every edge, tucking the whole enclosure in. Finish the circuit at the foot of the hall steps, and look up once at the whole sleeping arrangement. Walls around yard, roofs within walls, smoke standing thin and straight from the hall louver into the windless sky. The walls are thick, and the fire is kept. The yard is the space the refrain encloses, the pocket of held stillness all that stone was piled up to make. And tonight, snow-floored and moonlit, it may be the loveliest room the castle has. Now the cold is settling toward its deepest, and the night toward its middle, and there are only the small hours left, and the watch and the dreams. Behind the kitchens, across a small court the snow has claimed entirely, the brewhouse keeps its own warm climate, and it is one of the castle's best-loved buildings, for reasons that need no explaining. Here the household's ale is born, and since everyone in the castle drinks ale daily, from the lord to the spit boy, the brewhouse is a place of general and sincere respect. The room smells permanently of malt and steam and sweet wort, a smell that has soaked into the rafters. Even tonight, with the fires low, it breathes warmth at the door like a buyer. The brewing runs on its own calendar, and the alewife runs the brewing. She is the smith's mother, as it happens, a small, quick woman of 60 winters, and her authority in this building is total. The malt comes from the castle's own barley, steeped and sprouted and dried on the kiln floor above the furnace. The great copper holds a brewing of 40 gallons. The mash tuns stand in a row like fat oaken aldermen. She brews twice in most weeks, and oftener before feasts, and her ale is known up and down the valley, and she receives all praise of it with the same 3 words. It is fresh. That she holds is the whole secret, and she is largely right. Tonight the brewhouse sleeps mid-cycle. Yesterday's brewing works quietly in its vats under clean sacking, the yeast doing its patient night labor. A faint tick and sigh in the warm dark like something breathing under blankets. The alewife looked in after supper, lifted the sacking, listened, smelled, nodded, and went to her bed content. Half the castle's crafts, if you walk them at night, come down to exactly this. Something alive, wrapped warm, working slowly in the dark while its keeper sleeps. Bread, ale, the very fires. A castle is less a fortress at night than a nursery of slow, warm processes. All minded, all trusted, all due in the morning. The laundry shares the court, a long, low room with its coppers and beetles and drying poles, and beside it the bathhouse, which the future will be surprised to find here at all. The lord's painted tub stands under its canopy, and on bath days the coppers heat water for hours, and the whole court smells of soap and rosemary. The laundress and her daughters keep the linen of 60 people in order, and their room tonight holds the day's last great comfort, racks of linen drying slowly in the residual warmth, sheets and shirts, and the small smocks of the lord's daughters, all breathing lavender from the herb bags the laundress swears by. Warm, dry linen in deep winter is a luxury no rank outranks. The court between the buildings holds the castle's quietest monument, the drying ground, its poles empty now and capped with snow, and along its wall the woodpile that feeds the coppers, stacked breast high and running the court's whole length. Firewood is the castle's other harvest, cut and carded and stacked all autumn, and the household measures its winter in it as surely as in flour. The steward knows the pile's length to a yard. The alewife knows it to a brewing. It dwindles from both ends toward a middle they have both already calculated. And both calculations agree comfortably on spring. Stand in the court a moment before we go on. Brewhouse breathing malt on one side, laundry breathing lavender on the other, the woodpile sleeping under snow between them, and overhead the stars sharp above the court's small square of sky. The walls are thick, and the fire is kept. But a castle is not kept by walls and fires alone. It is kept by ale that is fresh and linen, that is dry and yeast that works the night shift, and by the small fierce woman of 60 winters who will be here at first light, lifting the sacking, listening. Against the south wall, where the sun stands longest in summer, the castle keeps its garden, and in deep winter, it is the stillest place inside the stones, a wattle fence and a gate that winds on its hinge, and within the beds lie sleeping under unbroken snow, each one a soft white barrow. Nothing moves here, nothing has moved since the snow began, and yet the garden at night is not empty, any more than a bed with a sleeper in it is empty. Everything is here, it is simply below and dreaming. The lady's herbs sleep nearest the wall, where the stone gives back the day's small heat. Sage gone silver and woody, thyme in its low mats, rue and hyssop and the rosemary bush that is the garden's elder, wrapped in straw against the frost like a traveler in a cloak. The chaplain's physic bed sleeps beside them, wormwood and comfrey, and the poppy whose seeds the infirmary keeps locked, all cut back to stubs, all filed away in the frozen ground like the steward's rolls in their chest. Under the snow, under the soil, at the root of everything, next summer is already written. Winter does not cancel a garden. It stores one. The bee-skeps stand in their alcove along the south wall, 5 domes of coiled straw, each wearing a cap of snow, and inside each one a marvel is quietly happening that the bee ward will describe to anyone who asks, and some who do not. The bees do not sleep the winter. They cluster, a ball of 10,000 sisters packed around their queen, and they shiver all together all winter, and the shivering is warmth, and the warmth is life. The cluster creeps slowly across its combs of stored honey, like a single golden animal, eating its way toward spring at the pace of a shadow. The bee ward lays his ear to each skep on his rounds and listens for the hum deep in the straw, faint as a thought. All 5 are humming tonight. The garden's smallest fires are kept. The orchard corner holds a dozen trees, apple and plum, and the one temperamental pear the old lord planted with his own hands, which no one is allowed to prune, and their bare crowns stand against the stars in the particular stillness of orchard trees in winter, patient as a family portrait. Mice have made their runs beneath the snow between the trunks. It is a hidden city of tunnels, and the garden cat knows it down to the last gate and toll booth. On the wall above, a row of doves sleeps in the cote, puffed into gray fists. The gardener will tell you that nothing in his charge is truly asleep, only banked like the fires. Roots, seeds, bees, doves, mice, the pear tree's slow grudge, all of it kept warm at the smallest possible flame, waiting on the light. By the gate stands the garden's one bench, cleared of snow oddly enough, swept by someone this very evening. And here is the small human secret of the winter garden. The lady walks here on fine winter nights, wrapped in fur after compline, alone by standing arrangement. 10 minutes, sometimes 20. The household knows and does not follow. What she does is nothing, and the nothing matters. A garden under snow asks no needle of her, no ledger, no judgment, no rank. It is the one room in the castle that wants absolutely nothing from anyone until April. Even the lady of a great house needs one such room, especially the lady of a great house. Latch the whining gate behind us softly. Behind the wattle fence the beds sleep on, the skeps hum their hidden hum, the pear tree stands on its dignity, and the snow holds everything in its long white paws. The walls are thick, and the fire is kept, and in the garden the refrain goes quietest of all, because here the kept fires are a shivering ball of bees, and a rosemary root wrapped in straw, and the walls are wattle, and it is enough. Winter is not the garden's enemy, it is the garden's night, and gardens, like castles, like listeners, are very good at night. One window in the castle still holds a working light, low in the range beside the counting room, and behind it sits the steward, finishing the day the way he has finished 10,000 days, with ink. His chamber is narrow and warm, one brazier, one desk, one shelf of rolls and tallies, and the candle before him has burned to its last third, which is the measure he allows. By its light he sets down the day in the neat crowded hand the abbey school gave him 40 years ago. Wood brought up 6 loads, the reeve's accounts settled and enrolled, 2 hides bought of the tanner, the far granary's roof, to be looked at when the thaw comes. The words go down in Latin, brief as knots in a cord. A castle is stone and soldiers to the road that passes it. But from this desk, it is something else entirely. It is a working estate, a slow great engine of fields and folds, mills and woods, rents and duties, and the steward is its turning shaft. Through his hands the harvest becomes the winter, the flock becomes the wardrobe, the village's labor and the lord's land become each other by measures set down in rolls going back before his grandfather. He can tell you what the demesne yielded in any year of 3 rains, and what a hard winter costs in hay, and which meadow floods first. And he tells it all without looking up, the way a helmsman recites his coast. His ledgers are the castle's second memory, drier than the stones and more exact. The muniment chest beside his desk holds the estate rolls year by year, each a parchment ribbon wound on its rod, and together they record a century of this valley in harvests and prices, births of foals and falls of timber, the great snow of 2 generations back, the murrain year, the 3 golden autumns in a row that men his father's age still speak of at Christmas. No chronicler will ever copy them. They chronicle no battles. And yet, if the future wants to know how this valley actually lived, meal by meal and rent by rent, it is all here, in a tired man's tidy hand by candlelight. He finishes the roll, sands the ink, and allows himself the night's one indulgence, which is the sitting back. The brazier ticks. The candle stands at its final inch. Somewhere above him, the great house he operates lies asleep over his head, all its stores and stables and souls, the whole warm sum of his arithmetic, and the steward sits a moment in the middle of it like a spider in a snow-covered web, feeling along every thread with his mind. Flour to Candlemas and margin, hay to April, if the cart horses go to the village for a month, which can be arranged. Saltfish plenty, ale never in question. The winter balances. He has made it balance 30 times. His last act is the same every night, and it is not in the ledgers. He takes the candle stub, crosses to the small window, and stands looking out at the yard and the walls and the white valley beyond. One aging man in a woolen cap, holding a light. The watch on the wall sees the little window glow and knows the time by it. The steward is at his window. All accounts closed. Then the light goes out, the last working light in the castle, and the steward feels his way to his narrow bed and is asleep before the wick smoke settles, in the sound sleep of a man whose sums came out. The walls are thick, and the fire is kept. And now we may add the night's third quiet truth. The books are balanced, stone, flame, and ink, the 3 keepings of a great house, and the humblest of them, the ink, is the one that decides whether the other two see spring. Sleep well, Steward. The story keeps your window in its map of the night, one small square of dark where a light was, and passes on into the smallest hours. Deep past the middle of the night, the castle does the thing this age thinks nothing of, and later ages will forget entirely. It half wakes. Not all of it, and not for long, and for nothing wrong. The first sleep has run its course, and in chamber and hall and tower, sleepers surface gently, like fish rising in a dark pond, and hang a while in the quiet between their two sleeps. It has no name because it needs none, the way daily bread needs no name at supper. It is the watch of the night that belongs to no one, and everyone keeps it lying down. In the great bed, behind the curtains, the lord and lady lie awake in the pierced lantern light, and their talk is the low water sound of people married past the need for sentences. The boundary oak, the brother's letter, the eldest daughter, who will be of an age soon enough, for matters that need thinking of but not tonight. Long silences that are also conversation. In the hall below, the old usher wakes on his bench. He attends to the state of the fire with one expert eye, and judges it good. Then he lies listening to 40 people breathe. After 20 years, that sound is to him what the tide is to a harbor master. It has a right shape, and the shape is presently confirmed. In the chapel, the chaplain keeps the hour on his knees by choice. The books call this office the deep watch. He calls it privately the good silence. In the stable loft, a groom lies awake with his hands behind his head, planning the spring shoeing in great detail and perfect contentment. The kennel boy surfaces, counts his dogs by ear, 16 breathings, 1 dream runner, and goes under again. On the walls, the watch changes with a murmur of passwords. The relieved pair coming down the tower stair, slow-footed with cold, standing a minute at the brazier in the guardroom, then folding themselves into the warm pallets their fellows just left, the garrison's oldest economy. The castle's sounds in this waking hour are an inventory of stillness. The click of the lady's rings as she turns her hand on the coverlet. A knight in the tower chamber muttering a fragment of law French in his sleep, arguing some dream case. The hall fire's soft collapse, one log folding into coals, and the old usher's grunt of approval. Mice in the Buttery conducting their inspection. The frozen river, far below, giving its long midnight boom as the ice takes up new tension. A sound like a giant's door closing very far away, which every child in the valley has been told is winter turning over in its bed. Nobody is afraid of any of it. The night is known here, catalogued, an old companion at its familiar work. And this, perhaps, is the deepest comfort the deep past has to lend us, and the true cargo of this hour. These people do not fight the night, and they do not fear the waking. When sleep opens in the middle, they lie easily in the gap, praying, murmuring, or merely being warm, certain that the second sleep will come because it always comes. No one lies rigid counting the hours, because the hours are not counted here at all, only rung far off by the abbey down the river, faint across the ice when the wind lies right. The night is not a corridor to be gotten through. It is a place, wide and dark and furnished, and the castle inhabits it the way it inhabits the valley. Settled, at home. Little by little, the pond stills again, murmurs round themselves into breathing, beads slow in old fingers and stop. The lantern's constellation slides unwatched along the beam. The second sleep comes up the valley like a tide, taking the village first, then the yard, the hall, the towers, the great bed last, the lady already gone, the lord following, his thoughts loosening from the oak, from the letter, from the walls into the dark water. The walls are thick, and the fire is kept. Say it once more softly, the way the castle itself would say it, half asleep. And let the second sleep take you too, listener, if it has not already. Everything past this point we will keep for you. What a castle dreams, no chronicle records, but a story that has walked its every room by firelight may guess, gently, sleeper by sleeper, as we have guessed in every world before this one. So, softly, up the stairs and along the pallets, through the curtains and the straw, into the second sleep of the household, where the dreams are. The Lord dreams of summer and of the boundary oak, because the mind keeps its files strangely. In the dream he is a boy again, high in the crown of that very tree, and the whole valley is green below him, and his father is calling from the meadow, not angry, just calling, the long fall of his own name across the hay. He knows in the dream exactly whose land the oak stands on, because he can see both fields at once from up here, which is, though he will not remember it, precisely the judgment he will give in spring. The law of the manor, decided 40 feet up an oak, by a boy in summer. There are worse courts. The lady dreams in wool. The woven meadow of the solar has opened for her, as it does some nights, and she walks in it, among the impossible blue trees, with her needle for a wand. The unicorn is there, resting in its fenced garden, and it is also somehow the third best hound, and it offers her its paw, which the real dog never learned. She takes stitches in the air, and the border of periwinkles grows by yards, perfect and endless, and her mother is somewhere near, pleased with her work, which is all that dream ever needs to be. She will wake with rested hands. The daughters dream the psalter. The small wry beasts have come out of the margins, as anyone who has seen that book asleep would expect, and the rabbit with the bell leads them both down gold-leaf corridors, while the knight and the snail continue their endless polite quarrel behind. Letters tall as doorways stand along the way, inhabited glowing, and in the dream the girls can read them all, even the Latin, especially the Latin, which unrolls like a road. The younger laughs aloud in her sleep, one bright note in the dark chamber, and her sisters dream without waking, makes room for the sound and puts a bell on it. The porter dreams of the road, as doorkeepers always dream, and in his dream it is 30 years of evenings at once, and everyone he has ever admitted comes up the hill in one long patient line, travelers and tinkers, bishops and beggars, the living and the dead together, and he knows every face, and the gate stands open, and there is room. The steward dreams a column of figures that sums itself, over and over, a little fountain of arithmetic, deeply soothing. The chaplain, asleep at last after his good silence, dreams of the lamp, which in the dream he tends not in the chapel but on the wall walk, and its small red light is somehow the same light as the stars, and the watch and the saints keep their rounds together, and none of this surprises him at all. In the hall, 40 dreams braid over the banked fire, hauling and baking and dancing at Whitsun, and the old usher dreams of benches, rightly ordered, world without end. In the towers the garrison dreams the garrison's one dream, which is home, in 40 variations. In the stable loft, the groom has reached the 4th horse of the spring shoeing, and is taking his time. The hounds run somewhere white and endless, legs twitching in the straw, always almost upon it, never told what it was, and highest of all on his perch in the mews, the old falcon dreams inside his hood, of mountains he was hatched among and has never seen since, air like cold glass, the world laid out below him like, though he has no word for it, a map, or a manor, or a night kept. Over all of them the snow has ceased and the stars burn down, and the castle holds its dreamers the way the valley holds the castle, close and quietly, and as a matter of long habit, the walls are thick and the fire is kept. Even the dreams here are warm ones. It has been that kind of house tonight, and that kind of night, and there are only the last hours left now, the deepest and the stillest, and they are already at the gate. There is an hour when even a castle lies perfectly still, and it has come. The second sleep is at its full depth. The watch itself stands quiet at the brazier, talked out, wrapped to the eyes. No window glows anywhere in the walls. The moon is far down the western sky, and the cold has reached the bottom of its register. The deep blue burning cold of the hour before dawn, when the snow squeaks under the sentry's single circuit, and the stars no longer twinkle but simply stare. The castle is one shape now, black on white, holding 60 sleeping souls the way a word holds its meaning. Silently, completely, walk the rooms one last slow time, the way the night itself walks them. The great hall, breathing in the dark, its banked fire one dull red eye under ash. The old usher's bench creaking once as he turns. The kitchen, warm as a loaf, the bread in its vault, the spit boy dreaming in his corner. The cellar dark, the apple smell, the strong room's patient chests. The chapel, red-starred, the dead lords easy under their worn names. The solar, the great bed, the curtained warmth at the heart of everything. 3 sleepers breathing in a row. Every fire in the castle is banked now. Every last one, kitchen and hall, solar and smithy, guardroom and gate lodge. Each a red seed folded in gray, each waiting for morning with the patience of things that have done this 10,000 times. The castle's sounds have gone below hearing into something older, a texture more than a noise. Stone settling by tenths of nothing, snow compacting on the roofs with the weight of more snow. The well's black water, 60 fathoms down, holding its one still thought. If you could hear the whole building at once, the way the rock under it hears, it would be a single low note, the note of mass at rest. And inside that note, small as grace notes, the breathing of the sleepers, the tick of 6 banked fires, the hiss of the wall brazier, the faint ring of a falcon's bell as the old bird shifts inside his dream of mountains. That is the whole orchestra. The music is rest itself. The castle has one more watcher, and she keeps the oldest watch of all, the white owl of the keep, who nests in the bell turret and has hunted this hill by night, she and her mothers before her, since long before the present porter's grandfather kept the gate. She goes out now, in the deepest hour, dropping from the turret into the moon-blue air without one whisper of sound, and quarters the slopes below the walls on wings like held breath. The watch on the wall knows her and counts her among the garrison, informally. The night's 5th sentry, the mice of the yard and the granary know her too, and their whole small civilization is built around her schedule. She crosses the face of the keep once, twice, a pale thought against the dark stone, and is gone down the hill toward the mill. Nothing else moves. The castle's last hunter is abroad, and even her hunting is quiet as sleep. Out beyond the walls, the valley keeps the same deep hour. The village under its thatch, its curfewed hearths all seeds now too, its street one smooth blue page. The mill hung with icicles, the miller long asleep, the cat about her silent rounds. The abbey down the river, where some cold brother is rising alone to ring the night office through the dark. The far bell arriving up the valley thin as a thread of smoke when the air lies right. the only man-made sound in 10 miles, and itself a kind of sleep. The forest holding its deer, yarded close under the firs, the river working under the ice, patient, black, already carrying somewhere in its far mountain springs the first water of the spring thaw, months away, coming at the pace of seasons. Nothing needs anything, anywhere in the whole white world. Hold the castle in one last look, the way we held the town of Pompeii and the Abbey Valley and the sleeping Nile, whole and warm and breathing in the dark. 700 years from tonight, these walls will still be standing, most of them, softened, ivied, visited by summer crowds who will eat their lunches on the fallen stones of the hall and wonder, vaguely, kindly, what it was actually like. This is what it was actually like. It was bread in a warm vault and dogs in a heap, and a lamp that never went out. It was 2 sleeps with a quiet hour between. It was 60 people lying down every night inside 3 rings of stone, in the certain knowledge that nothing would happen before morning, and being right. 700 winters running. The histories keep the sieges, but the nights like this one, the 10,000 ordinary kept nights, they were the point of the walls all along. The walls are thick, and the fire is kept. That is the whole of the castle's wisdom, and it has held all night, and it holds now, at the very bottom of the dark. Asleep castle, asleep valley. The last hours belong to the brazier and the stars, and the story will sit up with them, quietly in the guardroom of the night, until the east remembers itself. The last hour of a winter night comes on without a signal, and yet everything sleeping knows. The dark is exactly as dark, the cold if anything colder, and still some tide has turned. In the kennel heap, the old limer bitch lifts her head, consults the air, and lays it down again. Not yet. The horses shift toward the stable door in their sleep, bodies remembering hay before minds remember anything. On the wall, the watch stirs the brazier, and glances east out of 40 years of habit, and the east gives back nothing, and the watchman nods as if it had. Not yet. But turning, the castle's first waking is the kitchen's, as it has been every morning for 200 years. The morning cook comes yawning through the cold passage with a rushlight, lifts the ash blanket from the great hearth, and finds the seed alive, as it always is, as it must be. Kindling a knee, a long-practiced breath and flame stands up out of yesterday. The same fire, relit is the wrong word entirely, resumed. The first pot of the day goes on its hook. The bake oven's iron door is opened on the night's loaves, and the smell that comes out is the smell every world we have visited wakes to, the smell of the promise kept. Above, in the dark hall, 40 sleepers turn toward it in their sleep like plants. One by one, the castle's other seeds are blown back to flame. Gate, lodge, and guardroom, Smithy last. The smith walking out through the blue dark with his own rushlight, proprietary, unhurried. No fire in the castle is struck new this morning. None has been struck new in years. Each is yesterday's fire continued, which is to say last year's, which is to say, if you follow the unbroken chain of banked nights back down the generations, that the flame now catching under the morning pot is, in the only sense that matters, the first Lord's fire still burning, handed down the centuries one careful night at a time. The walls hold the space, but this is the true inheritance, and it is kept in ash. The stars are going out now, the small ones first, and the east above the ridge has begun the long change that is not yet light, black softening toward the color of deep water. The snow on the battlements turns faintly blue. A raven crosses the valley below the walls, first mover of the day. It rose through the cold air toward the forest, with one conversational croak at the sleeping village. Down there, threads of smoke are rising again from the eaves. One, then three, then all, the curfews lifted. The street's hearths resumed like the castles. The valley is relighting itself, hearth by hearth in the blue dark. The constellation of small kept warmths kindles back to life, exactly where it burned last night. And every night, and always, the small birds wake before the light does, and the castle's eaves hold hundreds of them. Sparrows in the thatch of the outbuildings, packed warm in their tunnels all night. Wrens in the woodpile, 24 to a cranny, a folded handful of feathers apiece, keeping each other alive by arithmetic. Doves in the cote stirring on their shelves. They begin now, before any color shows. A rustle here, a half note there, the first thin threads of the sound that will be, in an hour, the full morning chorus of the valley. The sentry hears it begin and nods to himself. The birds are the true first bell of the day, older than any bell, and no winter has ever silenced them. Where there are eaves, there are sparrows, and where there are sparrows, morning is already certain. Soon the castle will wake properly, and it will be brisk and loud and holy itself. Grooms and buckets, bread and bells, the portcullis rising with its iron song, the drawbridge booming down for the first cart of the day. But that belongs to tomorrow's people, and we are the knights. Our watch is nearly done. Stand a last moment on the wall walk beside the brazier, where the sentry stands easy with his face to the east, and watch the ridge line sharpen against the coming gray. The night held. It always held. 60 souls took ship into the dark at sundown, and every one of them is coming safe to harbor with the morning, rested, warm, and never knowing they sailed. The walls are thick, and the fire is kept. Say it one final time, and hear everything it carried all night. The stone and the flame, the porter and the steward, the curfew and the lamp, the watch above and the dreams below. Then let it go, listener, along with everything else you have been holding, and go down with the castle into the last soft dark before the day. You were the wall's guest tonight. The fire was kept for you too. Good night, castle. Good night, valley. Good night, listener, wherever your own walls stand. This was worlds before morning. Good night.